Shooting at golden hour is only half the battle. The other half is up to you, and that's knowing how to capture that beautiful light in your portraits. It's not magic and there's no mystery. It's all about knowing where to place your subject. Welcome to the channel, Hayward here. I'm going to show you 5 very good ways to place your subject in relation to the sun. So the sun is behind them or off of one of their shoulders. That will radically improve your photography. I'm going to go through this step by step, show you how to do it, pros and cons, why, everything about it. And at the end of this video, I've got a special announcement you might be interested in. Okay, the first technique I want to talk about is using the sun behind the subject to create a halo effect. It's a little bit different from an edge light. The halo effect covers more of the subject. It's a kind of a special effect, but it has a use sometimes. As you can see in the sample image here, I'm going to show the halo before I front lit the subject, and then I turn the light on to light the subject the way I want it, but you can still see the halo. This can be used to whatever level you like, right? It's just about exposure and the ratio to the fill light. So let's talk a little bit about positioning. So here's our subject, here's our camera. For a halo effect, the sun can be anywhere from straight behind the subject to maybe 40 degrees off the side like this. Why 40 degrees? I'm being approximate here. What happens is, if the sun is too far to the edge, it becomes an edge light on the subject. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's going to cover much less of the subject. The halo effect, it's behind more of the subject. So the sun being more behind the subject creates the effect. That makes sense, right? It's just more of the sun, that ring of fire showing around the subject. Little bit of a special effect, but in this session, because I was shooting right as the sun was coming down, I wanted to use it because it looked really good. Okay, let's erase this. The next technique is to create a silhouette with a backlit subject. There's a lot of ways to create silhouettes. One is to have a strongly illuminated background and no light on your subject. But in this video, we're talking about using the sun behind your subject so it's very bright coming into the lens, and all you really have to do is not light the subject. So here you can see in a sample photo, this is before I brought in my lighting, where we've got a silhouette. I'm going to be honest, I don't use silhouettes a lot in my photography because I'm a portrait photographer, but it has a great use in fine art photography. Because I don't do it a lot, I'm not great at it, but I'm illustrating something here as a takeoff point for you. I've seen some great silhouette photography, and I think it's a wonderful technique. So where do you want to put the sun? So if you're working outside, once again, ideally for a silhouette, probably the sun more behind the subject, off a little bit to the sides. The more you get off to the sides, the more you are moving towards the next technique. The next technique is golden hour. Golden hour can be anywhere on the horizon behind the subject. The sun can be anywhere over there, right? The idea is that the sun is just behind the subject and you are catching the beautiful angular rays of the sun coming behind the subject on that sharp angle. It's not overhead almost at all. It's on a sharp angle. It's very warm. And so what you're doing is you're juggling the backlight of the golden hour with how much fill or flash or whatever you're adding to the subject. So your golden hour is back here. It's all on the horizon, so to speak. And you can put a light or reflector anywhere on this arc in front. So it's your choice where you want the light to be, how you want it to look, how much you want. Okay, so the next thing about putting the sun or behind your subject or putting your subject with their back to the sun is that the sun can often have very harsh shadows, especially if you're earlier in the day. I try never to shoot in the middle of the day. I try and shoot very early or very late to get that low sun angle so you can control it. But even still, the sun's very strong and can leave really harsh shadows. If you put the sun behind the subject, you control how much light is coming on the subject, what quality of light. You can use a flash with a softbox, you can use a reflector, you can use quite a few different techniques. In this session, I've done both. I've used a flash and a reflector depending on the time here. At this last image with the couple on the bridge, it was just a reflector because the ambient light was so warm and nice, all I needed was a little fill and it just worked great. Again, multiple techniques, large discussion, but putting the sun behind your subject is a great way to eliminate shadows and squinting. Anytime the sun is in your subject's field of vision, shadows and squinting are an issue, and they're not flattering. It's not something you really want to have in your photography. Okay, one last thing here, and it's another creative thing, maybe special effect. Again, not something I use very often, but sometimes I pull it out of my bag. My wife is usually always surprised when I do because I don't do it very often. And that is flare, using lens flare. Little tricky, takes a little bit of work. Let's talk about where you want the sun for this. So the sun for this, probably you don't want it directly behind your subject. You either want it off of one shoulder or the other. Now, how far? Well, okay, that depends on your lens's field of vision, right? What is the width that your camera's seeing? Is the sun in the frame? I've got a sample frame here where I put the sun behind the couple. You can see what I'm talking about. It was a little bit of a stretch. It's not one of my favorite images because the sun was kind of high. If the sun is low, like right next to a face, and you let that flare come out next to the subject, it's really good. A couple of things to be careful of. When you flare your lens, your contrast goes down. That's one of the main reasons I don't often use flare, because when you print images large and they're low contrast, they can look pretty washed out and you often can't see the features of your subject. Again, I'm a portrait photographer. I'm all about wall art. Your mileage may vary depending on what kind of photography you're doing. Once again, this is great for fine art photography where you're not trying to sell a portrait to a person, you're trying to create a mood or an effect. Okay, I've got a little announcement to make here. As you can tell in this video, and probably from most of my videos, I have to gloss over things really fast. It's almost impossible to go in depth on any one thing in videos like this for several reasons. One, I don't know who's watching. I don't know what level of photography they are. And I don't know what questions they have. I don't know exactly what they're understanding, what they're not understanding when you watch this video, right? And I'm sure you can relate to that. If you're a professional, you're going through this going, come on, Eric, get to the point. If you're a brand new beginner, you can't slow it down enough. And also, I get a lot of questions in comments that I can't fully answer in comments. It's impossible. What I've decided to do is offer one-on-one coaching. I've set up a link that I'll put in the comments of this video where you can sign up for an hour one-on-one Zoom coaching where you can bring your questions. We can in-depth talk about any of the photographic techniques that I can help you with, or the business of photography, something I don't talk a lot about on this channel. So most of the videos that I do are because the vast majority of people are struggling with the basics of photography. I just wanted to offer this. I hope it's something that interests you. If it is, I look forward to talking to you if you have any questions about it. You can also shoot me an email. I've got a form there to fill out to discuss whether it's right for you. I hope this video has helped you. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to ask me any questions in the comment. Until the next video, cheers.